Okay, so I'm trying to see what I can anticipate that you might run into difficulty with at this part because it is a little bit tricky. You have now picked up your stitches on the right side. Okay. You'll notice I've put my stitch marker after the 33rd pickup stitch. Then I did 34, but I didn't put my stitch marker in there because it's going to fall off because we're going to be using another needle. So now I have to knit across here, the top, according to the pattern. So I don't want to use my number 7s. Number 7s here because I'm knitting the pattern, the shawl, in number 8s. So I pick up the other end of my number 8 to knit across according to pattern and leave that number 7 needle just sitting there on the side. We'll deal with that later. So now I'm going to knit according to the pattern. So we're knitting here. This will be line 53, main cable, row 27. So knit, then moss 5, which I do purl, knit. Bear with me because I can't have my glasses on to see this. Purl, knit, purl. Now we go into the main cable. Sorry, see, I told you I wasn't looking because I didn't have my glasses. 2 purl, 2 knit, 2 purl. Let me get a little better organized here. I'm getting closer and closer to the camera. 2 knit, 2 purl. Just trying to make sure it stays in the frame. 2 knit, 2 purl, 2 knit, 2 purl, and moss 5, which will be purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, and then we're knitting the first and the last stitches of every row. Okay, so now when you go, you're going to drop your number 8 and let it hang. Now you're going to go find the other number 7, which is attached here. Okay, so I'm going to find the other number 7, and this is what I'm going to use to pick up the stitches going down the other side. Now here you'll be tempted to go into that first purl bump, but you have to remember you've just knit an additional row across here from the other, and you see that means that you have to pick up the second purl bump. And if you want to be mirror imaging both sides, if you want to be really particular, you went into these from the underside going up. So you'll want to go into these purl bumps from the underside going up. And if you really, really want to be anal about it, if you did 1, 1, 2 going up this side, you're going to do 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. So I know that sounds crazy. You don't have to. You can just go down here and do 1, 1, 2. If you're not sure which purl bump to start with, go to the very bottom and start counting here. And count 1, 2, so 1, 1, 2, because you need 2 in that one, 1, 1, 2, and go all the way up, and you will notice that this is not the purl bump. This is the one. So if I do 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, and then the last one. So I'm not going to put my stitch marker here because, again, I've changed needles. The stitch marker is just going to fall off. But I can put my stitch marker after the first purl bump. So I'm going to go in see if I can show you here. So there's the first bump, which I'm not going to use. Here's the second one. And I'm going to go from the bottom up, and I'm going to pull one through, and I'm going to go the next one, 2, next one, and literally you manhandle the yarn. I think my eggnog is kicking in. So now you've got 2, and you're going to do your fourth one, which is going to be in between. This gets a little tricky on this side because you want the top running yarn. And now you have to go into the next bump, which is right there. Make sure you're not splitting your yarn. I seem to be splitting a little bit here. So just 1, 1, and 1. Oops, sorry. So you don't have to be that anal. You can go into the bumps going down if you want. Just make sure you do it all the way down the same way. And now again, take that top running yarn and pull it through. And try not to split your yarn. Now I'm going to stop here. I'm going to go the rest of the way down, and then I'm going to show you how I then deal with all these needles in the work. Okay, now you might have noticed that I forgot to put the stitch marker on, so I went back and put my stitch marker in on the second one, and I'll put the other stitch marker on the other side when I come back. So now I'm looking at a 7, an 8, and a 7, which means that hanging down here I have one more 8. So this is what I'm going to pick up now and start knitting back. So I'm going to be knitting on the wrong side, and now I just knit according to patterns. So the pattern here, this is row 54. So it says slip with yarn in front. So we're going to slip with yarn in front, and then it's going to be side cable row 26. And if you separate your cable sheet from the rest of your pattern, it's easy to refer to. So this one is knit 1, purl through the back loop 3 times. So it's going to be knit 1, purl through the back loop 3 times. And if I look awkward, it's because there's a camera between me and my work. Knit 1, purl through the back loop, knit 1, purl through the back loop 3 times, and then it says purl 8, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just going to follow the pattern here, and when I get to the end of this needle, I will place my other stitch marker here on the other side of that 34th stitch, so that, because this is where we're going to start to do our increases on both sides, so we need the 2 stitch markers there. And when I finish here, take that 7 out, I'll just continue with my number 8 here, knit across the number 8, and then I'll keep knitting, replace and put that stitch marker in here, and knit down the number 7, and then I can put my number 7 needles away, and I will have 2 number 8 needles going like a U down here.